Hello everyone, in this video we're going to discuss classifiers. First of all, classifiers are confusing to many ASL students. The classifier is a hand shape, for example, the three-hand shape. A hand shape that is used to represent the concept of a noun. For example, the three-hand shape can represent a vehicle. And that noun has already been identified specifically. So you must establish what you're talking about before you use the classifier. So think of classifiers as the category signs or words. For example, a vehicle can be either can be anything: a front loader, a car, a bus. If you're talking about a car, which is another category, it can be a Maserati, a hybrid, or a sedan. So classifier hand shapes represent a category of persons, places, or things. Classifiers are glossed or coded if you write it out as a CL, and then that's followed by what the hand shape is. For example, classifier 1, classifier V, classifier B. And there are about approximately 28 hand shapes that are used as classifiers. Remember that if you're using a classifier, it may look like an English letter, but it is not. Example, the classifier B is not a B. It's a hand shape that represents a category of signs. When you're working with classifiers, you need to think about concepts, not individual words. Again, think about the hand shape. Classifier hand shapes are very conceptual. They represent concepts, not numbers or letters. Classifiers are used to do many things: show movement, location, appearance of an object or a person. Remember, you must always indicate the noun first. And then you use the classifier in place of that to show where or how the noun moves, what it looks like, or where it's located. So why do we use classifiers? Classifiers are an easy way to provide additional information about nouns or actions. Again, the location, the type of action, the size, or the shape. It also gives descriptive information about the subject or the verb. Classifiers can quantify or group things, show characteristics or motion, or the relative placement of objects. They are very useful in visual languages. Classifiers tend to show rather and demonstrate rather than just tell you something. It's a way to give a lot of information quickly and clearly. So a classifier is efficient. Again, you don't have to describe an object in detail again and again. You just use the classifier. Classifier streamlines expression and understanding, and it does this by eliminating the need to repeat detail. Again, you can only use a classifier after the noun has been identified. The information that classifiers demonstrate can be divided into 6 categories. And these are the 6 categories. We're going to talk about each of them briefly. So, size and shape specifiers are descriptive classifiers. They are descriptive adjectives or adverbs. They describe physical characteristics, shape, texture, size. Examples of size and shape specifier could be a classifier 1 that represents something round and thin. Example, a pencil. Classifier B could represent a paper or book. A bent V classifier can represent a person who is seated or a chair. Classifier G can represent trim or a frame or the border of something. Classifier C represent a cup or cookies. Classifier F is used to represent small or round objects. Semantic classifiers represent nouns and their location or movement. So it can represent where a person is located, how they moved. Examples can be a person falling forward, sitting facing you, or lying on their back looking up. Examples, classifier 1 can represent a person and the action of that person. Classifier B can indicate a person, again, and the action of that person, for example, walking. The third category is body classifiers, where the body is actually used to describe a look or an action. Body part classifiers are used to describe parts of the body and their action by using hand shapes and appropriate movements. This is generally done representing the lower part of the body. Legs and feet can be represented as running, jumping, crossing of the legs. Instrument classifiers are used to describe how objects are handled or manipulated. An object can be tossed, caught, or thrown. Locative classifiers indicate spatial relationship. And it represents the location of one object compared to another. So we use classifiers when we want to describe something, whether it's an object or an action, or to give directions, to share information about surroundings, or as a part of a story. There's several rules you need to follow when using classifiers. I've mentioned you must designate what the classifier is representing first, or your listener will have no idea what the classifier is. You need to do this by fingerspelling or signing the referent for the classifier. An example, before you would use a classifier to represent a ball with green and yellow stripes, you would need to sign the object. And then you could use, for example, an S classifier to represent the ball. You also need to choose an appropriate classifier with an appropriate relationship between what the referent is and the nature of the classifier. When you are using descriptive or size and space specifiers, you also need to use appropriate non-manual markers, facial expression, and body language. And you should choose a classifier depending on what the referent is and what you intend to, the characteristic of the referent you intend to focus on.